Hi, I'm Steve Hargadon, and I want to invite you to the first ever online Tiny House Summit, February 20th to the 24th, tinyhousesummit.com. We have some great featured speakers, including Darren Hughes, talking about the tiny house world in Australia. Clips of his interview are coming up. All of these presentations are free each day to watch over the 5 days. 30 plus presentations in total. Please do sign up to join us, tinyhousesummit.com, and we'll see you online.
Look, I'm this is the face behind the guy that's behind Tiny Houses Australia. Look, I came across Tiny Houses probably about 4 years ago now. You know, a lot of people sort of that know me sort of have heard my story, but I was in a situation where I guess like a lot of people that have come in, everyone sort of comes to the tiny house movement and concept through different paths and different means. But I was in a situation where, you know, I could see my marriage was coming to an end. Okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to be going into another phase of my life. And I looked at options like renting. I'll move out and get my own little apartment, my own little micro small studio apartment, because it's just going to be me. I'm not going to need much. But those sort of things are only in the middle of the city and they're really, really expensive. I thought, well, that's not practical. And I didn't want to go down the road of saving up and getting into a massive mortgage again and a massive debt. So I looked at things like buying a caravan, or as you guys call them, travel trailers, and living in that while I got back on my feet. And I was online one night and it's sort of going down the rabbit hole that is the internet, and I spotted and I remember the exact house. It was Proto House, Anne Holly's house. I think it's Anne Holly, Proto House online. And I saw this image and I thought, what's that? And I looked into it and followed the link. And the more that I looked into it, the more that it just made sense. And I thought, hang on, this actually this makes sense. This is actually a good option for me. The tiny house movement's growing in New Zealand. Obviously, it's well established in the States, but all throughout Europe, I'm connected online with tiny house people, you know, in many parts of the world. And the common thread is that people are starting to realize that life is short, and they're starting to realize that what's it all about? Is life all about working our guts out, you know, 30, 40, 50 hours a week in a job that we probably don't like, to pay for a mortgage that's giving us that much financial pressure that we haven't got the time to do the things that we love. We don't have time and space to spend time with those we care about. So I think for a lot of people, it's a shift, and people are realizing that, okay, let's hit the reset button. Let's slow down. What are we doing? We want to spend our life doing the things we love. We'll spend more time doing the things we love. In Australia, the average price of a house now is $695,000. You know, the average mortgage that was written in Australia last year was $472,000, I think, and the figure that really shocks me the most is the very first home loan. So young Australians, the first home loan that young Aussies are going out there and getting last year was $323,000. Now that's, you know, it's like, you know, you've got the great American dream. We've got our big, you know, the big Australian dream is to grow up and to buy your own piece of property and own a house and land. And that great Australian dream for many people is just becoming impossible now, because how can a young Australian firstly save up? You know, they've got to live somewhere and pay rent and pay the bills and put food on the table, but they've got to somehow also save up on the side $150,000 to $200,000 as a deposit for a property, and then go into a $300,000 debt for the next 30 years. And so for a lot of people, it's just impossible. But the fact is that when people talk about living tiny or going tiny, it could be a yurt, it could be a house truck, or living in a converted bus, or it could be just a really small micro studio apartment where they really use the space well. So as Jay Schaefer once said in an interview, you know, it's about, you know, having the space that you need. I mean, the wheels, as you said, came about through the zoning requirements and a way to skirt the zoning requirements. But yeah, tiny living could be all sorts of different ways. It's people that are making a dramatic change in the way things are done by doing things like, well, I'm going to build a tiny house on a trailer. Those are the people that I think are going to get ahead, because if you just follow what society says, you know, is the normal thing to do, you grow up, and then you go to college or university, and then you get a job, and then you get a home loan, and then you pay off, you know, you start paying the mortgage, and then when you build up a bit of equity in your house, then you remodel the kitchen and spend $40,000. Well, then you put in a pool, you know, or you sell the house and you move to a better suburb and you upgrade. And a lot of people are starting to realize that having made it and being successful and happy is not so much about the suburb that you live in, or what's your postcode or zip code, or, you know, what's the badge on the front of your car. People are starting to realize that, you know, there's other things that are maybe more important. So there's lots of options, and lots of different people are looking at the tiny house option, which is encouraging to see, because it just makes sense for everyone. It enables people to have more life.